all. This is Mobeen Syed. I don't know how to start our discussion. Should I say this is Dr. Mobeen Syed from DrBeen.com? This is really KoolBeens here. So I do have my coffee, and I know that I'm going to pay for it because I'm taking this coffee. Actually, there is coffee in it um, at a later time in the day, and I'm going to stay awake now. So, Dan Robinson, thank you very much for doing this. Count and Joy Fisher, I just saw you came in. Welcome. Alexander says, I sat for a few minutes in my old British summer car today, happy looking at the wood around me. Very nice. Very nice. Alicia says, KBCL, hello, looking forward to being enlightened. Thank you very much. We're going to do it together. Margaret, hello, how are you? And Margaret, thank you very much for your support yesterday, for your donation. Okay, so Margaret says the tea. Casey, good night. Have a nice evening and see you Monday. Robin says it is delish. Love powdered mocha. All right, so I wanted to quickly look at the current stats. Actually, we should have had Paul with us. Oh well. So next week I'll request Paul. So this is United Kingdom, UK, and UK is, look at this numbers. So they have been going back up till March 21, and now they have kind of settled again. So this seems to be their settling point at this time. But generally, they've been going back up. The question is this really going to become another wave? This second Omicron wave is actually still larger than even previous alpha type waves. That is interesting thing. And let's see. The highest peak with the Omicron was on January 6th. So January 6th and February 6th, if there is any sad outcome that would have been there. So we can see this, but really the fortunate thing is that deaths are decoupled, although you see a little bit of those going back up, but not as the numbers here. So that is UK. How are things? What does Zoe app says? Is Bambi here? Alexander, you said from your British car. So how are things on the UK side? So let's see US. US is interesting. Look at this. So it has come back down. There is apparently BA2 spreading. However, US just seems to be either we are not testing or we are not reporting. So it is just kind of staying on the lower end. How many per day? For example, 31,000 cases per day. This is down from about 1 million cases per day when the Omicron had started. So if I go to confirmed deaths, so those numbers are declining as well and continuing to decline. So 836, March 24, and the recent peak on Feb 10 was 2,595. So 1/3. So that is US. Israel. So this is Israel. Kind of went up, and we saw that day as well, but it seems to be now leveling off. If I go to death rate, that is still declining, which is a good news. Japan. Japan had this biggest wave so far, and they are on the downward spike of it. I do not know which countries are now at this time counting or not counting. This is the death rate, and that is also going down. Good. Hong Kong. So Hong Kong had this huge spike. Remember, things got out of hand. So they are now actually going back as well. So their peak was 66,000 cases in one day versus now we have 14,000 or 15,000. So almost lesser than, greater than four times reduction. And if I go to the, and death rate has started going down as well. How about Australia? And people are from Australia and others. I will be doing the Novavax follow up for Australia maybe on Monday. So Australia has, I think this is their second wave for Omicron, just like UK has a second wave for Omicron. And this is the data for 3.39 deaths. And so they are now at 0.82 deaths per day. So low, which is good. And how about the actual the country from where the news started, if not the Omicron itself? South Africa. So South Africa had that peak in December. Since then, they have just continuously going down. Look at this long tail, and they just continue to go down. It will be really interesting to see their R naught. And the death rate has also reduced. Very, very good. Excellent. So John says, how about China? So John, let's look at China, although I do not know if the numbers would really be as accurate. So let's see. Whoa. So they had been actually down to what, 27, 97, and so on. And now they started going up since December as well. So that is probably the Omicron. And now they are, so they went up from, for example, 55 per day cases to 2,319 per day. I still think this is underreported, but still, you can see the spike. And the spike actually is tending to stay there. It is leveling off at that level. And let's see. So they're not reporting any deaths since May 27, 2020. So I just think that they do not have that data reported. John says Austria. Austria. That's interesting. Okay, let's look at Austria. Oh, wow. They went up as well. So the first wave, November 14, 2020, the peak was about 7,295 cases. Then tinier waves. Then the second big wave, November 23, 2021, top number of cases were 14,000 in one day. Then they had a peak in January, and the top number of cases 33,000. So up from 486 or 500 to 33,000. And then now they have a peak started from February 27. That means primarily this month. And the peak on March 19 was 44,000 cases, although now they are going down. And the so November, this is the probably death rate with that. December, and the current peak actually has smaller number of deaths. We might see in the next few weeks, but still the number of cases are already going down if they have not stopped counting. And so it seems like number of deaths are reducing as well. Nowadays, I think a bigger number that would be more interesting will be R naught, the spread in the society. That would be a interesting number to look at. Sky, hello, how are you? This is where we went. We were hiding from you, Sky, but you were looking down from Sky and you found us. Uh, John says, could the common thread in these countries be that they had very hard lockdown for a long time? Maybe, maybe. Doug is here. Hey, Doug, how are you? Playing at 1.75x. So actually, so you're catching up from. Okay, so what else is happening? Now, let's think about this. So Robin says Zoe COVID tracker in the UK has over 343,000 new cases a day. Oh wow. So in that context, if I go back here, what is reported here? So 88,000 a day versus 343. So quite a difference, huh? Very interesting. So thank you very much, Zoe, for Robin, for this. So we should think about how we should have the chit chats here. So one, of course, we can have the chit chats, and please remember the ultimate goal is to actually move from here as well, to Rumble, Odyssey, maybe simultaneously casting on both of those, so that we can just be as comfortable with the discussions as we can. I heard, so Barbara had shared with me Dr. Sunil Dan's uh, parting video, and it was sad to see how, do you know, since I watched his video, there has been just one sentence that keeps coming in my head again and again, um, and that is, we have privatized dictatorship. We allowed the private companies to become dictators, and the regulations or rule setting organizations or community representatives, they are just not doing anything. They are probably in their pocket. The so all the pillars of the uh, of running the country, the press, the judiciary, the executive branches, the houses, to me it seems like these companies have a lot of influence, and not on judiciary. I think judiciary is, in my opinion, much more protected from this, but they have influence. And so they, now our government is not dictatorship, although to some extent we can say, but still they are not dictatorships. But these tiny little um, bodies within the country have uh, that persona. So because of that, we'll have to move from here, because youtube will not YouTube doesn't care. Whenever I have seen this, that when something is done in the name of, this is for your own safety, this is for the people's safety or security, then anything can be put under that umbrella and be justified. Okay, so Bambi says UK is a plague island. Official government cases are not reliable. Hospital admissions are reliable. I'm also guided by Professor Tim Spector Zoe COVID-19 symptom study app. Yes. So Robin just informed that Zoe app, Zoe app. So maybe they have an. This is join Zoe, COVID.join Zoe. So if I go here, can we actually see the online dashboard? I'm sure there is something over here that we can go and studies. But anyways, I won't bore you while trying to figure it out, but I'll figure it out separately. So what I was going to say was one, eventually we're gonna excuse me, we're going to hop one more time from here as well. And the thing stopping is my knowledge of writing plugins and those things. So that is one. Second part is the what do we do with this channel that it becomes valuable. So I was thinking that eventually this becomes a real coffee shop. Maybe we actually create a physical coffee shop to represent one physical presence of it. And in here I think we should decide what topics do we want to discuss and how much we want to discuss. So maybe if not every day, then maybe once or twice a week, we can have a theme for these talks to say, maybe next week on Wednesday, we have diabetes theme. So I prepare diabetes, we talk about type 2 diabetes, or hypertension theme, or cancers, or the newer trials that are coming up for cancers, and so on. So I think we can have that. The question is, how do we operationalize it? How do we create a process around it, which is not Mobeen as a um, curator from end to end? So, if anyone is interested in helping to curate the next themes, and then doing the communication with the community to figure out what should we talk about. Yes, let's get you to select a special Dr. Bean blend. Yes. Laura says definitely need a real cool bean cafe. Yes. The question is, where should that be? Alicia says I follow Dr. Dan on locals. He cracks me up. YouTube is disappointment. Yeah. John says, Dr. Bean, you too have been red pilled. I used to be very naive. I am very disappointed. I never actually thought that. Oh, Dr. Z is here. Hey, Dr. Z, how are you? I think countries with low natural immunity numbers will have increased infections. Hi, all. Happy Friday. Yes. So you're correct. And that is what John was mentioning as well, that possibly those countries that had lockdowns and stricter lockdowns and controlled it, zero COVID policies, they are now having to face the music. Thank you very much, Dr. Z. You are the best. Correct. So Dr. Brett Weinstein did a podcast, and that is correct. So DHA they have a document in which they say, and I'm paraphrasing before somebody from DHA stands at my door. I'm paraphrasing that one of the internal terrorism threat, is the folks about vaccine and not vaccine and that. So I thought that was, I didn't think that that was called for, but maybe they know more. Lisu says, you're so loved, whatever, that wherever you go to, the tribe will follow. Thank you very much. So we'll do one more hop. This is an interim hop. and then we'll do one more hop, and we'll spread our wings, and we'll go to a more free discussion zone. And from then on, for the rest of our lives, then we'll be together and we'll do a show every day together. Bambi says it looks like we're back to square one in the UK government learned nothing. So Laura says any town will come anywhere for a good cup of Joe and good friends. Absolutely. So yeah, we should start doing these. Mega Muzi says terrorism threat is a serious matter. Yes. Robin, I read your joke. I cannot say it. Hmm. Denise says, where's locals? I think locals is a platform, right? So Gento says a platform for you. It's just education and broadcast. How to contact you to provide info. I have a platform for you. Um, you can tweet at me, or you can send me a message on Discord. So how's it feeling on this new? It's an app-based platform, not restricted. Yes. So how does it feel in this new place? So Colombian says Bastrop, Texas would be a good place for physical location of KoolBeens coffee and barbecue. That'll be interesting. Okay. Dana King says love the KoolBeens cafe. Yes, me too. So it's me, goddess. Thank you. How will you announce your where to move? Would like to follow. So we'll continue to go on the main YouTube channel, and this channel daily will have a talk here and a talk on the other channel. And then when I am able to start connecting the dots for the um, open broadcast, OBS, and these other uh, platforms, I will announce. We'll do a similar thing as we did yesterday. We'll do simulcast on all four channels for a few days. And as folks become more comfortable with the other channels, then we would just go solely there. So, Denise, not locals yet. We'll go to the Odyssey and Rumble. So this is fine. Rumble and then locals. So what else? And I know that I have promised that I would start the what is that, artwork. And please remember that the point of that is not going to be to say let's draw awesome, but is to try to learn art in a way that it kind of is a struggle for us. It's an effort for us, and that effort pays by activating and alerting and um, frustrating our brain, which in turn causes the activity in the brain. So I'm gonna start doing those art. Um, I can't even call them lessons because one, I'm not an art teacher, and secondly, I do not actually know enough art to be able to teach them. But what I'm going to do is I have a lot of art books. So I'll pick up some topics from here and there from the books and then start them. So that will start from next week because I think it is important that we keep sharp at this time. Mega Muzi says it's a done. Shame we actually have to move. Yeah, it is. John says, have you ever had a Cuban coffee? No, never. That might be interesting. Skyfrog says we should all buy an island with an airport. We can do that. So I continue to think that we have to have that Project Phoenix done. Maybe we should actually have a, you know, open project where everybody pitches in $5 or $10, where people donate their own tissue for their own cells. Just like today we have placenta banks, tomorrow I think there are going to be pancreas banks and liver banks, and you don't have to have the whole pancreas out, a part of it, a tiny part, which can then be replicated and cloned, or a liver bank, or GIT cells, other endocrine system cells, bone marrow cells, which can then at a later time be increased in numbers and then used again. And to give you an idea for why I'm bringing it up, have you heard that the trials for human beta cell, pancreatic beta cells, just started, and the first person, type 1 diabetic person, is sort of cured. His dependence on insulin has reduced by 90 or more percent. And I was looking at his interview. This is just a few days ago that they started it. So what they did was, so this company, there's a professor in a university who, he said 20, 30 years of research. They have finally, let me share my screen as well because I'm so used to drawing and talking. So what they did was, and I know that many of you are aware of this, me, this is just discussing. So what they did was, they took a stem cell. So let's say this is a stem cell. They took a stem cell, and this is nucleus, and they wanted to convert that to a functioning beta cell. So beta cells have a very specific way of working. Their way of working is that beta cells or beta cells, they have a channel in them, glucose channel. You may have heard when we were discussing these with Dr. Priya. So this is a glut, 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 or glucose transporter. And there are many kinds of transporter. The transporter that is present in the beta cell, and let me make it on the other side of the cell just to, for illustration purposes, to demonstrate how it functions. So the glucose transporter on the beta cells are insulin independent. That is, in the other cells, when the glucose has to enter a cell, the transporter, so let's say this is a regular cell, average citizen cell. In this, when there is a glucose transporter channel, it will only open in majority of the cases when there is insulin molecule attaches here. Insulin acts as a doorbell to open this channel, and so when insulin is present, the channel opens up and then glucose goes in and it is used up. So this is a regular channel, although there are special channels that open up with exercise as well. So just generally, Now, in the beta cell, the channel for glucose do not need insulin. So that means whenever the body, the blood has glucose in it, that glucose can just simply enter the beta cell without any restrictions. And it is a good thing. So imagine if the blue thing is a glucose. So as the glucose, let's say this is glucose, as glucose enters the cell, beta cell can measure how much glucose is present in the blood by knowing how much glucose is inside of the cell itself. Imagine the cell is actually a glucometer. So that means when the glucose starts arriving in the cell, as so let me back up even more. As we eat glucose or as our liver makes glucose and the glucose levels go up and down in our blood, the representation of that level of glucose goes up and down within the beta cell as well. Now, based on the level of the glucose, beta cell then decides how much insulin to make. And then, based on that, it makes insulin and releases it. This insulin that is when released is then going to go back in the blood, and from there it would go to these average cells and connect with their blood channels, and that is how glucose system works, or glucose management system works. Now, what they did was they took a stem cell. Of course, a stem cell's capability is to become any cell, and they worked on the stem cell for 20 to 30 years to figure out, can this cell, or how can this cell be converted into this cell, beta cell, that can sense glucose and that can make insulin. And that professor who was interviewing, I think they were talking to some mainstream media channel, he said there are 5 or 6 steps before a stem cell can become a beta cell. So they have to train it in multiple times or change its gene expression multiple times, step by step, to kind of take it from a baby state to a mature beta cell state. And so they made those cells. And the one of the researchers who was working on this, she was saying that for us, what we were waiting for was that if we have put those cells, experimental cells, in a well is just a plate in which these cells are present, they call them wells. So when the cells are present in the wells, they just continue to observe, they used to continue to observe for blue coloration, discoloration, blue in the well, which would have been a proof that the beta cell is making insulin. And she said one day we came in and we saw in one of the wells there was blue. And this, she said that they were so excited that that was the insulin making cell. Once they got that, then what they did was these artificial beta cells were then given to the first person. And he is a type 1 diabetic, and his need for insulin has reduced by more than 90%. The trade-off, the trade-off is that he needs to be immunosuppressed because our immune system will not allow a foreign cell to come and live within us. So it's going to attack it and kill it. So his trade-off is immunosuppressed. So they were showing other type 1 diabetes patients interviews, and one of the patient was saying, no, I will not take this because I would not want to be immunosuppressed. This person, he said, I'm very, very happy. He said, for the first time in my life, I ate ice cream as I can eat ice cream. And I was fine after that. So he was pretty excited. And the researchers are now trying to figure out how do we use these beta cells and make them not antigenic to the immune system. So, what does that mean? How do they create surface proteins that could be detected as self, one, or how could they add molecules to this, which will then, when the T cell or B cells, or actually these T cells or macrophages, when they attach with them, these cells, the molecules in the cells would cause energy. They would stop the other cell from becoming activated, and that way this cell can be free from immune attack. I think that if this person had his, let's say, own stem cells somewhere, or even better, his own beta cells available from before they got destroyed, then these could be cloned in the future to give him an unlimited supply of beta cells, which are his own, so his immune system would not attack them, right? That would have been the best. So imagine a child is born, and it's an invasive thing. Of course, it would look disturbing, it would sound disturbing, but imagine a child is born, then from birth to some months, years, whenever they feel comfortable, there is a procedure in which some cells are taken. So number one, child's placenta is kept so that their stem cells are kept. Number two, some cells from pancreas, some cells from liver, some cells from bone marrow are taken and kept as well, and those would then be in the future used back for the same person. So I was pretty excited about this. And when I was listening to this, so of course, this is a trial setting. Now they are actually starting with others. This is the first time that, so we hear about cure. So some of the people who were in that little documentary, they were saying that we have a running joke that diabetes will be cured in 5 years, and it just keeps happening. But this is the first time actually that they've given the cells to someone and the person's is almost cured. Now the question is immunogenicity of the cells or the immune system's behavior, and how do they help with that. So when I was listening to that, I was thinking these are the kind of studies we should discuss to see. For example, the other study where the doctor had changed, although the patient has unfortunately passed away, but remember the pig's heart that was modified, genetically modified to make it compatible to human, and then a slightly incorrect, anatomically incorrect diagram. Sorry, this is the heart. Because it is pig's heart, that is why it is this way. Okay, so this is the, so for example, this study is very interesting, that how they actually modified the tissue to make it less immunogenic for humans. Maybe this, the learning from here can be applied here. Or maybe my project, which I call it Project Phoenix, maybe Project Phoenix can actually help with this. So those who have passed the point of being babies and have donated their tissue, they can take advantage of this research and this research. And those who are now born and now will be baby in the future, they can take advantage of Project Phoenix. In my opinion, this would change the life tenure of a person to more than 150 years. Because imagine at the age of 60, 70 years of age, one gets a fresh donation of their own tissue. So it is almost like rejuvenating. Although the remaining body structures are still aging, but these functional pieces are still there. Yeah, so Mega Muzi, that was a uh, huge research. This was a huge deal actually. That um, research genetically modified pig heart transplant. So this was the unfortunate thing is that the patient has passed away, but this was the first pig to human heart transplant. What can scientists learn? So in this one, they actually modified. Oh, I can only see it with money. So for the first time, they actually modified the heart in a way that it is less immunogenic to humans and then administered it. So if you see here, the researchers had applied to US Food and Drug Administration to do a clinical trial of the pig hearts in people but were turned down, according to Muhammad Mohiuddin, the University of Maryland surgeon who leads the research team behind the transplant. The agency was concerned about ensuring that the pigs came from a medical grade facility and wanted the researchers to transplant the hearts into the baboons before moving on to people. But 57-year-old David Bennett gave Mohiuddin's team a chance to jump straight to a human transplant. Bennett had been on cardiac support for almost 2 months and couldn't receive a mechanical heart pump because of an irregular heartbeat. Neither could he receive a human transplant because he had a history of not complying with doctors' treatment instructions. Given that he otherwise faced certain death, the researchers got permission from FDA to give Bennett a pig heart. So I was thinking about at some point discussing what changes did they do to the heart. And so this long story to ask you that should we make this place our cafe, imagine we are sitting in here sipping our coffee, I have mine, and we are talking casually with each other, and we are talking about the latest medical research that pertains to us and the world, and see what's happening. And we become the coolest beings in the world, that we are the most informed and up to date about health related modern sciences. That would be awesome. So, Donald says, how do we keep our brains from deteriorating? So, a couple of answers to that. And of course, there is a huge amount of research that is happening right now to see how do we stall the aging in the brain. So maybe we should take that up as a discussion item as well. But generally, this is really important to keep brain active. And as I had mentioned before, when we keep brain active, it's not only the brain that stays active, it is the body that becomes healthy as well. And here is the reason why. I had mentioned this. So I wanna let me show you this cartoon of the person that I drew. So I'm gonna write it down here: brain health. And Dr. Z is here. She can actually help us understand that even more. Um, I'm always a little concerned when Dr. Z is around that, hey, if I misspeak. But first, let me show you the actual face of this person. Um, no offense to them, it's actually a cute picture. First, human receive um, beta cells created in lab. So this has been happening for years and years. I'll have to find it. He's a okay. Anyway, so I'll have to find it separately. So let me go back to this one. Brain health. One interesting thing is that brain cells are stable cells. Brain cells are stable. What does that mean? We have a few type of cells in our body. Those that are dividing, these stem cells or the daughter stem cells, they know that our function is to divide and make new cells. So these are more of a labile cells. They are more unstable cell. They just keep dividing, for example, in the bone marrow, GIT, skin, and so on. Then brain cells are usually stable, muscle cells are stable, bone cells are stable, many cells are stable. Stable means they have reached their final shape or function and they are not going to divide any further. The problem with the stable cells is that reproducing them is not possible, one. And secondly, the problem with the brain cells, even if we can produce new neurons, which we have, problem is how do you put them in this huge connection connected world that is our brain, right? So there are billions of trillions of connections in there. So if you put a externally generated neuron in the brain, how does it get connected correctly? That is a problem, and that problem is still not solved. And you would see the first time, if there is a solution, that solution, sorry, this brain looks a little damaged, so I want to fix it. So the first time that you would see that there are some cells that are able to start working for us is going to be the spinal cord repair. So, for example, IBM has that little device, the chip, that can pick up from the spinal cord. So, they have a little chip that can pick up signals from one broken area of the spinal cord and relay it to the next part. So, let's say somebody unfortunately had an accident and this part of the spinal cord got severed. And so, this chip can then help bridge the gap and convey the message from one place to the next one. It cannot connect every single fiber, but it can connect some crude areas so one can try to walk with it without being having a very fine motor skill. This area will be the first to become fixed if we are able to successfully create neurons and plug them into the system correctly. This is like having a new wire added to the wiring in the home. So while this issue, and then the problem is aging as well, that even if we do not have any cells that are damaged, the existing cells are aging, and all of our cells are aging every day. So there are many um, researches now that show how aging can be reduced or stalled, or even in animals now reversed as well. So barring all of that we cannot do here in the cafe, we can do art, and that is really important. Art, or something that kind of puts your brain towards making an effort. Why is that? So let's look at that for a second. So first concept to have in mind is, let's say this person whose brain and spinal cord areas are these, this person has this muscle. Let's say this is this person's biceps muscle. So this is a biceps muscle. Okay, so this muscle, the guns. So we have this biceps muscle, and if you right now check your own body, you check your own biceps muscle, you will feel that even at rest, there is there is a bulk of the muscle you could feel, and you could feel some tone in it. And that is the reason of these muscle tones, that you are in whatever posture right now. If I'm sitting up, I am actually talking and drawing while my body is staying in this posture. That is because my muscles are toned at this time in a way to keep or to maintain this posture. So our muscles always are in need of a continuous tonal um, messaging to maintain whatever our posture is. Even lying down needs a postural help. So in our brain, the higher systems, that is the motor areas in the brain. Okay, so my drawing pad just decided to. This sometimes happens that the drawing pad doesn't work. So let's say this is the motor area. Too big of a motor area, not anatomically correct, but location wise sort of correct. This is the motor area that sends messages to move our body. This motor area with basal ganglia here, in here, and then with the cerebellum, these structures also do an unconscious tone maintenance. So there is a bombardment of impulses to our muscles. Impulses go down to the spinal cord, from there to the muscles, and muscles are kept in a specific tone. And cerebellum and basal ganglia keep an eye on what is the posture, and then according to that, they decide which kind of muscles should have a higher tone in them versus the others. Now, when we are doing some effort, you may have actually noticed, if you're drawing or if you are singing or if you are playing some piano or something, sometimes if you notice, your body will be in a taut state, in a tense state. And mostly the teachers teach the people who are learning art to say, relax, don't get into this stiff state. Why does that happen? What happens is, when we are learning a new thing that we have no idea of learning before, then in our brain stem, there is reticular formation. Reticular formations are spread out neurons present, and we'll do this discussion in detail. I just want to give you a higher overview. This reticular formation is called ascending, or makes ascending reticular activating system, ARAS. And ARAS is a favorite topic to discuss for motivational speakers. And limbic system and ARAS is what two things they just talk all the time. So activating system's job is to send light on signals to all parts of the brain. Now, when the light on signals go, or activating signals go to the brain cells function, and our body has a very weird thing that the more you use something, the healthier it stays, or better maintained it is. The less you use something, the body kind of ignores that part and does not maintain it and lets it go. So when reticular activating system causes the brain cells to become electrified, they become healthy. So that keeps the brain sharp and healthy. But there is a separate benefit, and that is that because brain is now electrified, it is all glowing with electrical energy, it is sending impulses out with a higher frequency as well. So the tone of the body increases. That is as if you are, and I'm making a bold statement, it is not correct. That is as if you are doing exercise and you have a higher tone in the body. So, of course, it's not as good as doing exercise. But the point is, your muscle tone goes up when you're doing art. That muscle tone going up is also beneficial, because that asks the muscles to say, you know what, you need to be healthy as well, and you need to pick up more nutrients as well, and you need to maintain yourself better too. So that is a side effect of activating system, that the body gets a higher tone. And how can we get all of those benefits in one fell swoop? Do some art. And so the point is not to do the art that would not make you um, stress out or frustrate, or kind of make an effort. If the art is something that you are just effortlessly doing, then do something else. But the For people like me, art is going to make my tone go up and my brain become more sharp and active and so on. So that is the point of doing the art. And we would do those discussions next from those little uh, classes. I shouldn't call it classes. We'll do art together from next week. So, Donald, that is the long way of explaining that we cannot actually replace the cells, but we can help keep them alert and reduce the deterioration. There are many more things as well, to have the correct electrolyte balances, to have the correct nutritional system, to have less acidity in the body, to have less deteriorating inflammatory molecules in there. So many more things. But one important thing is to keep the brain alert by challenging it to learn more. Correct. So Kathleen says that never stop learning, keep your brain active, learn a new language, a new subject. Absolutely. And I hope I can clarify this. The point of doing this is not to become master of a new thing, but to have that effort, that frustration that I am doing something, it's not happening correctly, and I want to do it correctly. That activates you. That is what is needed. And Dr. Z is here. So, physical activity, cognitively challenging activities, antioxidants, overall physical and mental health, social support, and joy, according to meta analytic research results. Thank you very much. And Dr. Z, maybe someday we should have one more talk about brain health. Psychological health, behavioral, mood health is one thing. The brain tissues health, as you're just commenting here, it would be really great to actually do this together. So John says, will learning a new language? Absolutely. Anything that would make you kind of pay attention, become alert, have a higher tone. Higher tone actually means something in the brain is active as well. And so, yes, new language as well. M. Gregory says, I love art and music. Yes, absolutely. Kathleen says, absolutely, Dr. Bean, at 73, it's helping. Absolutely. And I believe you can. So Dr. Z says it would be my honor as always. Awesome. So I'm going to ask Melissa to set up a talk, which we will just talk this. How can we have brain tissue health? What are those environmental and physical activities we can do? So John says brain health with you and Dr. Z is a winner. Absolutely. I would love it. So Skyfrog, absolutely. So learning the agile programming techniques, absolutely. And I would keep saying it. The point of this is not to say you have to be a master in 3 months, and if you're not, then you're all depressed and sad. That's not the point. The point is to put some effort in the brain which you enjoy, which doesn't make you depressed. Although making you depressed also activates the brain, but that's not the right way to do it. Some effort which you like to do and where you enjoy it when you're doing it, and you can repeat it. And when you become good with one, then go to another. M. Gregory says you should open up an art gallery or museum. Absolutely, I would love to. My little doodles. So Frisco says maybe a deep dive in type 3 diabetes. Absolutely. So if you go to drbean.com, I'm going to sell my drbean.com now. Just a very tiny price, really low price. And the link is in the description. On drbean.com, I think that classification of diabetes mellitus is my lecture. And I have discussed 11 types in there. My marketing team said people did not like that lecture a lot because I was actually delivering a lecture in a classroom to doctors. And so I'm interacting with them and talking with them and discussing on the whiteboard. Absolutely. Should try to draw with the left hand. Yes, like this. This is drawing with the left hand. Thank you, John. So Dr. Iron Mom says, excited about these topics. So the question is, who would help me streamline these topics, which community wants, and then program them to say, okay, we will have 5 chit chats every week, but there should be a couple of chit chats that are on a specific theme that we are all aware of and we are coming in ready. And I think one chit chat can be some classes, the art things. Yeah, we got to do something about this, Alexander. So Skyfrog says, don't use your left hand. Okay, stopped using it. So Lisu says, Qigong, it really works. I'm witness for 2 decades. Absolutely. And it is actually funny. I had done uh, wushu, and then after wushu, my further specialty in kung fu was monkey style. And the reason was my teacher said, you are a small statured, you have a small body, so monkey style is going to be more suitable for you. So I did that. And my son was saying that, hey, we should go do taekwondo, and I was saying, okay, let's figure it out. And qigong, I like qigong as well. It's a more slower system. Rennie says, I can't draw with my left hand. I can make bread with both. Nice. M. Gregory says, in Canada, I think doctors are giving out prescriptions to look at art at museum. That is actually smart. Cynthia says, Luffy needs both hands. Yes. So, how about we break for today? This is the grand opening of the cafe today. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Class and cat wrangling 101. Absolutely. I think we should ask Luffy to give us a class on human wrangling. I was complaining to my wife that Luffy has somehow got set on using this seat that I use. So when in the morning I come in my this office and start preparing for the talk, he would sit here and will not move and just keep meowing and keep grooming himself, but keep sitting here until I get up and either give him the seat or take the cushion from here and put it on another chair. Then he'll go and sleep there. Then he says making bread is therapeutic. Absolutely. So KB Use Knits says, I had a major heart event last summer. I hope you're doing okay. I promised myself to do something for myself this year. I chose taking an immunology class and also watching Dr. Bean Brain Fog much better. Excellent. So now that we'll do some art classes without any commitment or advice, I think we'll do even better. Texas says these can also be Zoom sessions for giggles. Absolutely. Absolutely. That'll be so much fun. Fluffy says, great to see the new channel, Dr. Bean. Thank you very much. So, Dan, that is such an important area, epigenetics and telomeres, because they are directly related to the aging process. So, we'll discuss. Cool. So, with this, thank you very much. Denise says, yes, we need laughter. Absolutely. Please leave the barista of the coffee house a tip. Yes, absolutely. So, with this, thank you very much for being here, for spending your Friday evening with me. And stay safe, happy, and healthy. This is a new channel, the Coffee House, officially started today because yesterday was simulcast. Today was this little baby channel doing on its own. So thank you for being here. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. You know that there are links in the description. One link is to drbeen.com, and the others are for supporting this work. So thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Bye bye.